I welcome you all to a session on digitalization. It won't be anything specific to what we do. It's more of a general thing, and everything will be specific to the manufacturing industry. So digitalization can be done in a lot of areas in banking, construction, IT services, but I'll be focusing on the manufacturing industry. So some of the basic mechanics which you all are following already. So I'll just skip this one. So I wanted to start off on a very light note. So this is a WhatsApp forward I have come across, and it says that what has led to the digitalization of your company, and COVID-19 has driven digitalization unlike any other thing so far. Going on to the main topic, here are a few things which people think are digitalization, but amongst all of these, only few of them are really digital initiatives. So I'd like few of you to tell me whether setting up printers comes under the scope of digitalization. You can put your answers on the chat box or you can unmute yourself. Yeah, Sai says no, Arvind says no, Kumaran sir says yes. Okay. Saran, Harsh, and Arvind, Sai, you all are right. Setting up printers does not come under the scope of digitalization. If a new printer is purchased and it's installed, it's just a device which runs with your laptop or with your desktop. So it's not a major digital initiative, it's just a IT work. Now, next, ERP improvements. Does this come under digitalization? Arvind says no. Sharunan says no. Okay, Harsh says yes. Okay, I think Arvind, Sharunan, and Ishu are right, because ERP improvements is again purely an IT related thing. It is not getting connected to a machinery. Say you are making an improvement so that PO can be made instead of 2 minutes. You have made some changes in program which helps you make the ERP which helps you make the PO within 1 minute. So that will not be a digital improvement. It will be an improvement in the IT field. Now, next one is bringing a machine online. So you have an old CNC machine and now you're connecting it to the cloud. So are you doing a digital work on that one? Okay, Arvind says yes. Okay. Okay, this one has a unanimous yes. So you all are right. Bringing a machine online is a major digital work because it's getting connected to the cloud. Okay, Harsh is ask. Okay. So, Harsh, are you telling why or you're telling yes? Okay, I'm assuming that's a yes. Then paperless factory. Is this a digital initiative? Okay. Many of you say yes, but actually making anything paperless comes under digitization. So there's a subtle difference between digitization and digitalization. In digitization, as the word implies, you are making something into zeros and ones. So you're making a data which is usually on paper in form of letters into something which becomes ones and zeros in the virtual form. So actually, strictly speaking, that does not come under digitalization. It is a digitization where you're converting data from hardware to software. It need not necessarily be connected to the cloud where you can get the data out and stuff. All you're doing is you're making it paperless. Yeah, it's a very eco-friendly option. Loganathan is right. So the next one is tracing material through RFID. So is this a digital initiative? We have a lot of material going through the shop floor and you're able to track exactly where it is. So Sharunan says yes, Arvind says yes. Yeah, both of you are right. In this particular case, it does come under digitalization because from the cloud, you will be able to tell exactly where the material is. Then fine. Yeah, Harsh is asking the difference between digitization and digitalization. So digitization means you're converting data into virtual form. For example, the word digitization is coined because you're making it into ones and zeros. Basically, whatever thing we type in our laptop, at the background there is a data which converts the data into ones and zeros, and you're able to get the computer is able to process that information. So same thing happens when you go from a paper factory to a paperless factory. Instead of having all documents in your hand, you move it to a virtual system. So that's how digitization happens. But if you further go one step up and you make that digital data interact with other stuff, then it becomes digitalization. So now I'm going back to the last one, resolving network connectivity issues. Does that come under digitalization? Okay, many of you told no, so you guys are right. I get many times stuff like my Wi-Fi is not working. Can you come and help me? But actually, that is a purely IT rule, and IT is also playing a really vital role in that. Without them, we'll not be able to even work during this COVID-19 period. So, hats off to their efforts. But resolving network issues comes under their umbrella. Now, these are the kinds of words you frequently hear, and many of you may think they are like slightly different things, but they almost mean the same thing, whether it's digitalization or IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, Smart Factory. So all these terms are interchangeable and can be used for each other. You may say that Industrial Internet of Things is a subset of digitalization, and you're right in that because in the IIoT, you are connecting machines to the cloud. By things, they mainly mean machines. But digitalization is a little more broader. It may include connecting people, then some other aspects as well. Uh, Kumaran sir has asked a very good question. He's asking what is 4.0? Now, I'll briefly take you through a couple of slides which tells why that term 4.0 comes. So this is a journey through time. 18th century, we started mechanization. Before that, the industry was purely manual, labor oriented. People used to come to the factory and they used to do every operation with their own hands. But we got the steam powered industry in the 18th century where they would heat water and the steam that comes would be made to run a turbine or a wheel, and the wheel would automate some of the it would move some of the load which was before done totally manually. So that's industry 1.0. Industry 2.0, electrification happened. It happened in the 19th century. So we moved from boiling water, creating steam and doing it on the spot to a remote location using magnetic and electric fields to generate electricity, and it was transmitted to the respective industrial areas. Now, from industry 1.0, 2.0, we move to 3.0 in the 20th century. It basically means automation, lean manufacturing, and stuff like that. And there was this is not popular, but globalization was considered as 3.5. And finally, here we are at industry 4.0, which means mainly digitalization. Now, we have seen that every century there has been a jump, 18th century, 19th century, but Industry 5.0 may not take place in the next century. It may happen within our lifetime. So, Industry 5.0 mainly refers to personalization. So, right now we are doing mass production, say we are manufacturing shirt size L, shirt size XL, shirt size M. But in the industry 5.0, what will happen is we'll still continue mass production. It will happen in bulk, but it will be personalized. Every shirt will be fitting to a unique individual. The data will go seamlessly. The measurements will go into the machine. The machine will know what is the exact waist size, chest size, and it will make the clothes precisely fitted to that individual. There will be traceability that this material will go to that particular individual. and such level of programming will happen. The data will go directly in industry 4.0. Right now we are creating data, and we are seeing how to use that data and get meaningful insights. But in industry 4.0, the data will be implemented real time immediately into the, it will be fed back to the system to optimize it and make it better. AI will make the decisions, and it will be a kind of utopia. So this may happen within our lifetime, and we'll have to care towards it. Now I'll go back to Industry 4.0, which is the focus for this session. Here's a summary. I'll just make a simple word for each of them. Industry 1.0 is mechanization. Industry 2.0 is electrification. Industry 3.0 is automation. 3.5 is globalization. 4.0 is digitalization, and 5.0 will be personalization. Now I'll try explaining a digital factory through this example. So this is an ideal Industry 4.0 setup, which has already gone through the automation setup of Industry 3.0. So what will happen is machine A will complete its process and communicate to machine B. Or anyone wants to say something? Parameswaram, you have unmuted yourself. Do you want to say something? Okay, you've muted yourself back. Any questions anyone has so far? Okay, so I'll continue with the session. Machine A completes its process and communicates to machine B. The highlight of Industry 4.0 is everything is connected to the cloud. So machine A is connected to the cloud, machine B is connected to the cloud. The system which transfers material from machine A to machine B is also connected to the cloud. So everything is connected to the cloud. That is the essence of a digital factory. So the machine B will identify automatically which component is getting machined, and it will start changing its setup so that it will be able to hold that component as per for correct machining. So the tools inside will also get changed as per the process it's going to be. Then the one at the same time, when all this setup is happening in machine B, the component will be getting picked up by an AGV or a robot arm, and it will be moved to machine B. So there might be a lot of machines. There might be machine B, machine C, machine D. It might be so that the component has to go directly from machine A to machine D also. And the machine B and C will know that they are not supposed to take this component. They might instead start setting themselves up for component 2, which will be coming up after another 10-15 minutes. So everything is connected, and all machines know what they're supposed to do without much of an intervention. Then all of this happening, the in the IoT platform, the machines, all the data will also keep getting recorded. So that's the third point, that how much time it took to transfer the component, how much time. Yeah.
Nalathambi.
Yeah.
Here. So God. So I just want to add a point on what you said on machines connected to the cloud. So
yeah, I saw your comment. You are absolutely right.
Machines 3.0 talks about the connected to. Yeah. So participants, make it clear, it is not needed. The machines need to be connected to the cloud server. Cloud is nothing but the server which collects the data from the machine and keeps it for the further processing of data analytics or the artificial intelligence. So machines are connected. Machine need to be connected to a server. So server can be on two ways. One is internal server, that is on-premises server with our whatever the server data room what we have. The second one is the cloud server. So in which the machine will be connected to the cloud. The data will be stored in the cloud. So in that they have various, like Amazon, they have a cloud server. So Microsoft, they have a server base. So Please keep that in mind. Thanks, Yasser.
Thanks a lot, Nalathambi. That was a very correct input. Hearing his comment, I got reminded of a very funny incident. There was a politician who was trying to show himself as a very intelligent guy, and he was saying how the clouds in the sky will store the data, and when it starts raining, we'll lose the data and stuff. That was a very funny anecdote. I'll try explaining what a real cloud is. A cloud is basically like right now in the laptop, we have a hard drive where we store information. Similarly, like how Nalathambi said, Amazon, Google, and all, they have like huge buildings and it's filled with this kind of hard disk, but it's really big. And because of its size and stuff, it can store much more data. It will be like thousands of TBs. So they have huge premises where they have like a version of our hard disk what we have in laptop. Similarly, they have like a huge huge storage devices where they store all the data, and the data whatever is stored in there, they call it a server, and that is what we mean by cloud here. So from this you'll be able to understand that the data need not be stored in their premises per se. We can even have that storage facility within our factory, and we can have an internal cloud. So that will be our own personal cloud, where the hard disk is not connected on the machine. It is instead in a separate location within the factory, and all the machines, instead of storing the data locally within their machines, it will be sent by Wi-Fi or internet to that. So that's about cloud. Now I'll go back to this discussion on this digital factory points. So in this industry 4.0 environment, not only the data about the machining, what should be done gets interchanged between machines, but what the machine does is recorded forever. That this machine has taken 1 hour to machine component A, and it took these many minutes to transfer the component to machine B. All this data is stored, and the big data is an offshoot of digital initiatives. So all this data can be stored in either with SAP or anything Excel sheet, but it'll be online, and with that big bulk of data, we'll be able to take out meaningful insights, such as it took machine B 5 minutes to set up, which was about the average cycle time. So if we could reduce 5 minutes of that setup, then we can bring down the overall average cycle time and bring out components faster out of the factory. So another thing is now we had talked about the machines, but apart from the machines, even the component is fully traceable, where it is, in which machine it lies, then how much time it is spending in each machine. So first at the first instance, I talked about how much time machine was taking to process each of the components. Now I'm talking about how much time the component is spending on each of the machines. So both are slightly different. So the component can either be traced just by the data of the machine itself, or the component itself might have some sensors, or it might have some barcode or RFID, any kind of tracing mechanism. And even if it is not under processing by any machine, we can see that it is waiting in this particular location for so much time. Then we can analyze why it waits and stuff like that. So then the data, whatever is generated, the software can make it into a meaningful presentable graph. If you send a Excel file with 1,000 rows and 1,000 columns, unless the person is very good with Excel, he'll not be able to take any useful information from that. But a very good IoT platform will convert that data into visual trends, and the visual trends will allow the person to take some decision that clearly this particular bar is more, so that column height of one particular machine bar is high, so it is actually taking more time than the other bars, and he can immediately infer something. Then this is so far we have talked about the manufacturing thing. Now, apart from manufacturing, even in maintenance, Industry 4.0 plays a key part. So the machine will have sensors all over it. It will be heat sensor, temperature sensor, pressure sensor, and all the sensors will simultaneously give data. And it is not just failing of one sensor. If one sensor predicts some issue, it will not highlight it in a major way, but a combination of all the sensors, if they're able to see, they'll have like past trends. Already the sensors will be trained through machine learning AI that these are the past case in previously when the temperature reached to 1000 degrees and when the pressure changed to this much, the machine had failed. So the sensors and AI field will remember that previously it had failed due to these parameters, and if it sees a trend that the machine is automatically increasing to that temperature and pressure is reducing to that particular value, then it will tell the maintenance person that this machine is about to fail. An even better version of that will be where the system is already trained and it has been told that when the temperature goes to this one and pressure goes to this one, the failure is happening in this particular area. So the maintenance person has to go to this part of the machine, some filtration place, and the filter that filtration place is a problematic area. So that's a second level of maintenance. Then the best type of maintenance will be where the machine, it will not only tell that the filtration unit is a problematic area, it will also tell that it will be diagnostic and it will tell how to overcome the issue. It will tell you have to change the filter, and once you change the filter, the machine will become all right. So as of now, we are at this level. In future, maybe industry 4.5.0, what may happen is the machine may correct itself. So there might be couple of so actuators or motors inside the machine, which will actually remove the filter, throw it out, and put the new filter. So that's the futuristic stuff. So the machine is connected with its OEM. So the manufacturer of the machine, whoever made the machine, that machine owner may, there is some privacy issues here, but if that is overlooked, then the owner will be able to see the machine conditions, and he can also send the sensors in real time to the replacement. If some particular, maybe the motor is not working or something, then the manufacturer will automatically get the data from the machine itself that the motor is failing, and the OEM will start shipping the material even before the maintenance guy orders it. So that there is a seamless working of the machine throughout. So not only that, if the machine is connected with the OEM, then the company can send software updates. It can recommend hardware upgrades and stuff like that, as and when the machine shows some particular parameters or if the machine is getting developed. So this is about the connectivity with the OEMs. So the session was planned for 25 minutes. Uh, I'll spend another 5 minutes in giving you some ideas for basic IoT projects. These are really simple projects. Here you have a Arduino board. It's like a microprocessor. What we have as a CPU in our computers, kind of similar, but it's not having that much functionalities. What you see here are the pins. So all these are pins. What you do is you can put input in any of the pins and you can put output in any of the pins. Here we have the output pins. So once you put input sensor, it can be a touch sensor or it can be a light sensor. And in the output, you can have a motor which reacts to the particular input sensor. One example is we have tower lamps in our machines. And in front of the tower lamp, we can put a brightness sensor, and whenever the tower lamp shows green light, that is machine is running, the microprocessor can store data in Excel that the machine was on from this time to this time and it was off for that for so much time. So based on this input, we'll be able to get the running time of the machine. So in a small way, it has become a digital machine because it's able to communicate and store information on how much duration it was running. To make it a little more advanced, you can make another pin as output pin for output signal, it can be connected to Wi-Fi also. So this will be connected to another Arduino board in another machine, and we can make it receive information that the previous machine has stopped running. So this job is going to come here next. So you might be thinking so far that this digital stuff is like really high funda and stuff like that. But as I'm trying to explain you now, it is something really simple. We can do it. We can do it on our own. This whole system runs on a software called Arduino software, which is like C programming. It's free to download. And this board, you can get it on Amazon for 1,000 rupees. Some duplicate version you get for 250 rupees. Some good quality ones you get for 2K, 3K and all. So this is a basic thing which can enable digitalization in the factory. You can even use it at home for IoT, not IIoT, but simple IoT projects inside the house. So that's all from my side. Now, if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Yeah, sir, this is Nalatambi.
Yeah.
So to the participants, I would like to add a few more points about or a few more insights about IoT. So which Yasser has covered very surface level. So the next level of thing is like how the communication or the architecture, how the system information flows from the machines to the server and back to the computer for the analytics. So it is like the machines will be equipped with sensors, whatever the data which we need to acquire. So they will the sensors will be connected to the machine for the parameters, and the sensors will be connected to the output modules, that is DAG modules, data acquisition modules. So the data acquisition will be connected both in terms of wired and wireless. If it is wireless, it is obvious wireless connections. If it is wired, there are various port functions are there through network cables, RS-232. All that are the output modules from the machines. So the data is acquired from the machines for those parameters, and it will be sent to the server, both in-house or the outside premises server. And so this is what the hardware and the data acquisition point of view. So then we would have developed our IoT system to show if machine is off, we have to get the notification. If machine is on, it has to calculate the machine uptime. If it is a stop, then it has to calculate the downtime. All these things are the logics that we need to build in the software, whatever the platform which we take, like ThingWorx or Microsoft Azure. So they have their own IoT development platforms. So we have to give the programming logics, everything. So based on the data, the logic will get run. And then after the data processing, it will be connected to our laptops or mobiles or desktops based on the tablets. So whatever we have defined. So this is how it closes the complete cycle of data acquisition to the output defines. So in which you might have seen many of the dashboards with graphs and all that. It is a customized thing. So we have to develop our own dashboards based on our requirement, what needs to be shown, how it has to be shown. All that is the development part of the dashboards. So for dashboard development, there are various tools available. In ThingWorx, you can ThingWorx is nothing but like an Windows OS software. It is a platform in which you will develop your IoT programs. So in that itself, you can develop your own dashboards with ThingWorx, and there are various other tools like Power BI, Tableau, all these things. Even you can write your you can design your dashboard with the .NET platform. So this is sort of all about the complete structure of data acquisition and output.
Thanks, Nalatambi. So some questions have come in. Can you please share the digitalization initiatives done in LTDL? So some of the basic things that have been done is the material tracing. So we have kind of skipped Industry 3.0. We have not done the automation, and we have directly jumped to 4.0. So in 4.0, we are tracing the material through barcode. That is one particular initiative. We are barcoding the castings and tracing the castings until it goes to assembly. Once it goes to assembly, we are having a the automatic tracking card. So in that we are printing out and there's a barcode over there and we are scanning that sheet after every process. So that is while assembly and testing. Once the testing is done, we are putting the RFID tag, and technically the RFID tag will, again, you have to confirm at every stage. So the system is available for us to use. It is up to us to utilize it fully. So that's one part of digital initiative done. And then, uh, yeah, Pugayindi has told that we have integrated it with SAP so that we can consider. You are absolutely right. Then Arvind has asked how can it be implemented in valves. So right now we have done something called smart valves. We call it LAMP, L&T Asset Management Program. So these valves, we are putting sensors all over, transducers, pressure, then temperature, actuators, all these are together giving us information about possible failures. But we are seeing a development stage. We are puncturing the valves and putting sensors which is not acceptable according to standards and customers. Uh, but in the R&D stage, we have contactless ultrasonic sensors which will detect any problems. So Pugayindi has shown another example of controlling AC without Thailand's. Yes, that is IoT and not IIoT. So you're right in that aspect. But if the machine, if the AC was supposed, it was installed inside the machine, which would control the temperature of machining to optimize the cutting parameters, then it would have become an IIoT project. Then Harsh has asked, do you have any case studies how companies have used this? I have seen case studies in India, and everywhere it is still in a very basic stage. I went to a Cummins factory, and there some of the examples are they have a when the machine is broken down already, they have the operator press a button, and when he presses the button, the app installed in the maintenance personnel's phone, it gets alerted that the machine has broken down, attend it. Then once attending, they'll again record in the app that they have addressed the issue, and the time, the MTTR, all those maintenance parameters gets recorded automatically. So we are still in that kind of stage. We are yet to go to a stage where the predictive maintenance and all works perfectly well. Few companies have done it, but not many. Then another case study example would be a camera will see, this also I have seen in Cummins, the camera monitors assembly happening real time. And if the operator is assembling it in a wrong manner, then the camera detects through machine learning previous experience that this is the wrong assembly, and it alerts the supervisor to come and attend it. In a more automatic, sophisticated system in the future, the machine will, supervisor may not be required. The machine itself will tell this is the correct assembly procedure, and the operator can change accordingly. There are a lot more case studies. I'll send it to you offline. Is there any other question?
Thanks, Yasir. That was really interesting. Thank you.
Happy to know. I'd like to thank Vidyati ma'am for giving the opportunity to do this session. It was just a very basic session where I was just trying to convey what is digitalization. That was my topic. And I tried doing this by not giving any definitions or theory. It was purely through examples. So I gave you an example of a smart factory, and I gave you examples of all the eras of industry and stuff to try conveying what it was without going too much into the technical details. I wanted to just create an interest in digitalization without going too much into the theory of it. If many of you are interested, we can go more in depth in the future. So that's all from me. Thanks a lot.